I'm going to make this video very straight to the point, especially as I am not doing this for views. I am doing this because I care for humanity. And there are things that we may not see about ourselves that we need to think about, especially if truth can be uncomfortable. Then we should welcome criticism. We should be open to it. And I've been very critical of the systems that be in all regards. And I'm sure that many Republicans and Trump supporters are themselves, which is why they are a Trump supporter. But just how far are you willing to go for the truth and for challenging the systems that be is my question to you. How far are you willing to question yourself? Know thyself is the most important philosophical wisdom. And yet this sense of humility and knowing that you know nothing and being able to live and let live, or the golden rule, or basic fundamental teachings in spirituality that have been passed for thousands of years, still to this day go broken as people fall to superstition, belief systems, ideologies, identities, attachments, and material things that pull them away from their true essence. I see all this talk about the Bible and God, but where is it really when most people's God is the government itself? Trump's followers have the greatest potential for evil. And I know this message will not be liked, but I'm here delivering it for you right now. And yes, I'm grateful for America, the American abolitionists, the founding fathers, or the people who had the intent of creating a space of more freedom. But I want to be free. Not a greater or lesser freedom, owning 50% of myself, 70% of myself, but 100% of myself, because only I can breathe for me, and I own what I produce, right? This is my property. If somebody takes ownership of me, my property, they're claiming ownership over me. That is slavery. And I am to be wary of this as somebody who wants to empower myself to be greater at every given moment, because that is what true health is. That's what sovereignty is. And no, a government or a ruler cannot profit from that, cannot benefit from that. But the people which the government claims to serve needs that to exist, to persist, because the number one cause of death is democide, death by government. And the only way you prevent that is when the masses say no and do not comply with the orders given to them by their masters, and they follow their conscience or their heart or God or nature or truth, and not the whim or the arbitrary law of man. That's why one person can give an order and millions of people can follow, but the millions of people are the ones truly at fault, because that's just one person giving an order. They're just one voice. So I don't blame Trump. I don't blame the certain people in power. I blame the followers, the people who put them in power, the people who carry out their orders, who actually are doing the wrongdoing, yet all the blame is passed to the order giver when they're not even committing the action. I can tell you to jump off a bridge, although I'm not going to do that. I'm a content creator, and in many platforms you're banned if you try to encourage violence. Yet in politics, we encourage violence all the time through the passing of law, and it never goes questioned because it's justified for some greater good or common good justification. But then we say we're against collectivism, and yet we want everybody to comply with what we think the world should be. I'll put some questions on the screen for you if you really are going to be curious about yourself and really delve deep into what you think and what you claim to be as a connection with God, and what you claim to be is a connection with truth and freedom. Then you will sit down and think about these questions. I'm grateful for America. I'm grateful for where I am, but that doesn't mean we can't be better. It doesn't mean that, just because we're better than other countries means we're the best either. In some regards too, right? Because we say our food supply is not as good as other countries. We all have to learn from each other, and we all as humanity need to evolve to our greatest potential. It's all fun and games, all the memes, all the laughs, all the Trump, oh, Trump said this, oh, he did that. And him looking, very genuine in his posture, in his postulations. I respect the genuine character and look. That's what makes it more appealing, but that's precisely what makes it more dangerous, because people are willing to follow a lie if it's mixed with truth. When the government acts as God and says it's doing it for God, when it isn't God, you start to think as though It is carrying out the orders of God. When it claims that you are being oppressed and that you need freedom and that it will do everything for you, that's precisely what allows you to be mentally enslaved. And mental slavery is the worst form because it's not overt, it's not physical, you don't see the violence, it is hidden. And you may actually want to be enslaved and not see your own slavery. In fact, even think that you're free and you have a vote and you have a choice in the matter when you actually don't. This is a deep psychology, a brainwashing that has been done on the mass population of America and to all the people in the world. So it's all fun and games online on the internet and meme culture until it isn't. When things turn back around into Hitler and Mussolini and Mao and Stalin all over again because people worshipped them as though they were gods for delivering them all the things that they wanted. Hitler rebooted the economy, defeated communism. A lot of great things that, we look at the bad side of history after the fact with hindsight glasses. But in the moment, how many people went along with it? A lot of people. A lot of people. If you were in their shoes, you likely would have complied. Stanley Milgram, a psychologist, said that in America, in any medium-sized town, there are enough personnel to do death camps just like Nazi Germany. And that should concern you. When I have over 400 plus slides from psychologists and psychoanalysts and psychiatrists and eco-psychologists and community and critical and pedagogy and all bunch of different fields looking at the nature of this mindset, statism, this belief in authority that we cast upon other human beings, saying that they have more rights than us. And it all shows how the greatest evils are committed under the guise of good. That should concern you. And so I had to take a pause there because of some family matters, because life carries on. And at the end of the day, as you see time and time again, is when the death comes of many people, all this matters of the world, the physical matters, these attachments and these ideologies are not going to matter at the end of the day. We fixate our lives on these and we believe they are righteous, and we are taught in school to follow certain heroes and ways of thinking, when in reality they have no relationship to reality. Reality is beyond ideology, beyond the flags and banners and parades that we give upon the people. The Tao Te Ching, one of the oldest texts, second most translated work to the Christian Bible, says that a ruler, if truly good, will be like a janitor. Not even, wear all the fancy clothes. Basically, not present. A government like you've never seen before, right? Acting without force. This we've never seen in history before. The Taoist texts are known as some of the first anarchist texts. And yet anarchism is seen as chaos, as though you are to fear freedom and accept and love your slavery and your servitude. When all anarchy means is no rulers, not no rules. In fact, in order to rule yourself, you need to have self-ownership or morality. You need to have a sense of self that allows you to rule yourself. That self-ruler is sovereignty, which means above ruler, super regnum, and it is a rule that we set for ourselves, right? The non-aggression principle, the golden rule, do no harm, natural law. There's many terms for it. These all usurp the power of rulers. And that's why I'm grateful for America and its integration of these ideas over time. But they are not necessarily followed through without contradiction. They're not necessarily followed through in a harmony, in a balance, because people are falling to one worldview or another, unable to see their fellow man in different points of view. So are they really united with the whole of this creation? I would argue not. It's not about Trump, it's about the order followers, and they're more likely to be obedient when the order giver, or Trump, gives them exactly what they want, and so they can shut off their mind, go back into that sweet dream that Carl Jung talks about as utopia, while people claim that freedom and being truly free is utopia. We have things completely on its head. AI will be developed. AI will always exist, right? The problem is the pretense for which it is justified and how it is used. In other words, the problems that exist with using AI, because we do not have consciousness or natural intelligence to use it, to permit it, to know what it's doing to us. AI is all the fuss, all the talk nowadays. But what always leads to conversation, in this case, is NI, until we find out it's to our detriment, AI. I say in the back of this book, very bluntly, NI, not AI, is the future. It is to survive, but also to live. I also say that AI without NI is death. A robot doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a conscience, and the order follower who does what they're told to do looks a lot like a robot. When you look at the rituals of politics, somebody in office writing down, oh, this is what's true, this is what's not true, this is what must be passed upon the population. Yes, sir, yes, President Trump. It is not human, it is not natural. It is a ritual created by man. This is our robotic side expressing, right? And as we develop AI, who has the most control of it? The government. And as the rulers change, the dangers tend to increase as the people with the power have these tools more than ever. AI can be our greatest tool for freedom or our greatest tool for enslavement. It's our choice of how we use it if we have consciousness and natural intelligence. If we don't, then AI will be in control of everything. For many people stop talking about how there might be chips inside of them. Many people stop talking about this idea that happened not so long ago, only a couple years ago, of certain strands of bacteria of mRNA that may be modifying their genes. And many doctors have spoken up about this. Many of them get censored or attacked. And yet we're supposed to look at our food supply, when the companies will just find a workaround. At the end of the day, as you see in every case of scenario here, the individual must have sovereignty. That must be developed. That must be encouraged outside of politics. It cannot happen through the decree or the law and order of a certain document. It must happen through the human spirit, expressing it, encouraging it. Now, the ignorant or stupid will not be as destructive as the cunning and psychopathic. And so, these Republicans, these people who proclaim freedom, who proclaim truth, who stand so firmly in it, whereas these Democrats are the people who may be ignorant, may just be very reactive, they may not be as dangerous as these people who are cunningly intention-based. And again, this is a warning from the Eastern philosophy, because moral wars are the worst. C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest Christian writers, warned us of this fact. And again, all the psychologists warn us of this fact. People who fight, Alan Watts talks about this, people who fight for moral wars are by far the deadliest of wars. It comes back to their self-destruction, and they wonder why they got where they are. Oh, where'd this cancer come from? How'd we end up in tyranny? How could the limited government of America turn into one of the most tyrannical countries in the world, where there's so much chaos, where there's more problems than the other countries in some ways? I'll tell you why. It's because it doesn't work. It cannot work by the nature of which it is a system that still imposes on the individual. It's an individual that still claims to have authority in certain man. It's a system that is more deceptive because people believe they have a vote and a voice, and so it comes as actually more dangerous than the predecessor, what was before it. Because people see outright evil as evil. They see the monarchy as monarchy, one person in control. Instead, you have a bunch of systems that are very complicated. People can barely understand it, where they're supposed to have a voice and they're said that they have freedom when in reality they don't. This is a grand brainwashing. Brand and brainwashing. So I'm going to conclude here with sharing with you on the screen quotes from Huxley and Orwell. Orwell was very blunt, saying this is the problem with the world of technology and AI. Huxley says, well, over time the rulers will find more cunning, more strategic ways to control the masses. This is the world that we're heading into. It's not Orwell, it's Huxley. And if you do not see this, it's because you have not reflected on your own natural intelligence to see this potential in AI that is extremely dangerous, that we are carrying out by our mere nature of turning off our brains and following orders. Now, nature will reconcile either way, so we don't need to fear, and we shouldn't fear. But the goal is to minimize the aggregate harm, to reduce this democide, to not ever have it happen again in history, and it's going to be requiring us to move beyond this altogether. And it will be brought up, right? Politics and all this stuff on my channel will be brought up, but we have to move beyond this. I'm going to show the example on my channel, creating food forests, growing food locally, creating decentralized systems. These are things politicians won't do, and if they do it, it's for a greater agenda, or again, for more people to worship them. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for true freedom, which means nobody should worship me or even have to agree with me. I want you to be in control of you and not even have to watch my videos. You can subscribe and like if you want. That's your choice, but I respect your choice. Do you have a choice when it comes to living under these governments? You don't. You have to comply. So are you truly free? No. Until you are able to truly have a choice. As Herbert Spencer, a psychologist in the 1800s, said, this law of equal freedom is what he called it. And he coined the term survival of the fittest. And yet that is what's associated with anarchy and its chaos. He coined the term. And he says it's actually order if we allow nature, if we allow people to live their lives. We've been taught the opposite of what is the truth. And yet we are told to be ashamed of the truth and keep it out of sight by all means possible, to deny it right away, to deny the potential at all of our freedom. And so we'll never achieve it as long as we suppress that potential. Osho, Alan Watts, Jiddu Krishnamurti, some of the greatest spiritual teachers on earth, Buddha, were essentially anarchists, Lao Tzu, Zhuangzi, because they all did not play into the system of saying this ideology was imposed on people. And now the governments use those religions to control people, and they say, well, if you practice this religion, just don't question the religion called government. That's a problem. Thank you very much for watching. Trump supporters, question why you are doing the most evil, because you are partaking in a mixed lie, a mixed truth, one of which is very deceptive. And so we all have something to improve upon. And I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. If we recognize that fact, no system of control will be imposed upon us, because we are the ones that create it through our mental constructs. We are taking the place of God, and we are perfectly fine with doing so, even when we come to destroy ourselves at the very end of the day.
And society doesn't want man to be free.
Society does not want man
to be free, because freedom means, according to socials, freedom means disorder. Revolt means disorder. Revolution means disorder. But man is always seeking freedom. But freedom merely outwardly in relation to the social structure. Therefore, he is a revolt against society, but not a revolt against the inner psychological structure which has created this society. I don't